भूतले वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिनि नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री श्री राधा वृंदावन चंद्र की जय, श्री श्री निताई गौरंग की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की। Fine. So the fourth chapter we have been discussing since a few sessions. We are almost in the middle of this chapter. Is to give a quick recap of what we have understood so far. The fourth chapter is titled Transcendental Knowledge. And why this knowledge is required is because right now we are covered by ignorance. Ignorance that I have to enjoy this material world. And this material world is for my exploitation. Lust is covering. Jnanena avritam. Kama is covering our real jnana. Right? Now explained in third chapter. To uncover our real nature, we need to have proper understanding. That's the reason Krishna is giving us this knowledge of transcendental understanding in this chapter. And interestingly, in this chapter, there is no question asked by Arjuna. Because already Arjuna asked question in third chapter towards the end. That question Krishna is still answering. Okay, that is one observation here. This chapter and chapter 15 are the only two chapters in Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna is not asking questions. Okay, it is something to be remembered. So here, this Krishna begins explaining the transcendental knowledge that he gave this knowledge many millions of years ago to sun god, and through sun god to his son Manu to his son Ikshvaku. Like this, the whole human society was having this spiritual knowledge in the chain of succession known as Raja Rishi Parampara, succession of kings, the royal order. Krishna again chose Arjuna as one of the recipients of this knowledge because Krishna felt the influence of time has happened in such a way that this knowledge is forgotten. So Krishna reveals his true identity, that his existence as Supreme Lord is transcendental. His appearance is not like ordinary living entities being born. It's not called as birth. It is known as appearance. Krishna appears and disappears. In our case, we are born and we are dead. We are born and we are dead. We are subject to the laws of karma. Krishna is beyond the laws of karma. Krishna explained he descends or he appears at periodic times in different incarnations. Incarnation means one who descends from the spiritual world for specific three purposes: to protect his devotees, to destroy or kill the demons, and to re-establish the principles of religion. Understanding these various transcendental subject matters is what is the purpose of human life. This will liberate us from this cycle of birth and death. Krishna explained this knowledge has been prevalent from ages in the material world, and many great personalities, many great devotees have been following this. Arjuna, you also follow this. Krishna's recommendation was that. And what is this knowledge actually? This knowledge is actually going to give directions and guidance to the whole human society with regard to how to work, how to conduct, in what consciousness one has to work. So Krishna introduced the concept of the karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma means prescribed duties as per the Vedic rules regulations. And vikarma means actions which are not sanctioned in the Vedas, scriptures, but one who is doing it whimsically or out of his own free will. That is called vikarma, which will have a negative reaction. Karma activities, when done as per rules, regulations, will get punya, pious results. Vikarma will produce papa karma, right? And Krishna also gave us the new concept known as, which already Krishna introduced in 3rd chapter, known as akarma, or activities for yajna. Satisfaction of Krishna is known as yajna. And those activities which Krishna is himself giving in the Bhagavad Gita, when we do it, will not have any reaction. It is called akarma. And the whole Bhagavad Gita is discussing about this subject matter of akarma. When you do activities, you do not have any reaction. Right now, we are carrying so many reactions of our previous lives, because of which we are right now going through suffering and enjoyment. So our present action should not create future reactions of suffering and enjoyment, which means entanglement. So we have to do something which is going to stop our future, our old stock of action-reaction cycles. And right now, we should prepare in a way that we will completely come out of this cycle of karma, zero karma, right? So that is what Krishna recommends. And how to act on the platform of akarma. Akarma means devotional service, actually. Krishna explained very nicely the way of art of working, what should be our consciousness, what should be our background understanding, what should be our frame of mind, how we should practically act, Krishna explained. And Krishna was explaining and coming to the point that if activities are done in that consciousness of complete absorption in Krishna's service, his satisfaction, that is known as yajna. And Krishna is explaining different types of yajna, because there are different types of people, various categories of people under different modes of nature. So different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedic scriptures. It's like Krishna explained that there are people who worship devatas, demigods, by different sacrifices. Their intention is for enjoying the material world, having more facilities for material enjoyment. And there are some spiritualists who are worshipping impersonal Brahman, right? For them, they themselves will offer themselves to the fire of Supreme Brahman. Yajna means you sacrifice your personal identification, personal satisfaction, and everything engaged in the Lord's service, in authority service. Say demigod service means they consider demigods as authority, and that way they want to do some rituals and activities for pleasing them. These demigods are different agents of Krishna only. But that worship is having different type of results, which we'll understand in the later chapters. Right now, because of different modes of nature, there are different types of people. Krishna also explained, according to Varnashrama, brahmacharis, grihasthas, panaprastha, sannyasi, they have different types of activities. Each of them can offer sacrifice or yajna. Just like the brahmacharis can offer their sense enjoyment propensity in devotional service to Krishna. Right? Just like Prabhupada gives an example of how if you can engage your hearing propensity without any distraction on hearing the vibration of holy name of Krishna, that is also a type of a sacrifice, because otherwise our mind is so agitated, thinking that and this and all. So just you offer your attention on hearing the holy name, chant and hear the holy name. That is also sacrifice, because you are sacrificing your in one way sacrificing your tendency of otherwise getting distracted. And grihasthas have the propensity for sense gratification, license for sense gratification. So that sense gratification enjoyment is that way offered for satisfying Krishna's senses, offering devotional service, of offering food, offering arati, and performing devotional service in the house. That is also one type of sacrifice, because the tendency for sense enjoyment is, in one way, sacrifice for Krishna's enjoyment. Now, in the verse number 27, You can have your copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is in front of you. We'll continue our discussions. Krishna is recommending further types of different yajnas in the next few verses. Sarvanindriya karmani, prana karmani chapare, atma samyama yogagnau, juhvati jnana deepite. So these different types of yajna performances Krishna is recommending, because finally one has to perform yajna, sacrifice. Why? Because if you don't perform sacrifice, then you will be entangled. Krishna explained this in the previous chapter, third chapter, very clearly. Yajna chakra is going on. Right? Yajna chakra, because of which even necessities of life will come from yajna. If you don't even do that, then you are doomed, or your existence will be in great difficulty. That's what Krishna explained in third chapter. So here is one more type of sacrifice Krishna is explaining here. This regarding the Patanjali yoga system, which all of us are familiar with, right? What is Patanjali yoga system? Patanjali is a great rishi who was practicing this yoga system. So Krishna is mentioning this authentic yoga system. So this yoga system was conceived by Patanjali, Prabhupada says. So what happens here is the mind and senses are brought to control. Sarvani indriyani karmani. Right? So all the functions of the senses, all the functions of the mind are brought to control for what? For self-realization. That is the purpose. Mind control, sense control is required for Atma Samyama Yoga, yoga, the linking process. Because there's urge for self-realization. Jnana Deepite, because finally you have to be realized that I am not this body, I am spirit soul. So this Patanjali yoga system has a very technical way of understanding is there. Prabhupada explains here, wherein they consider this soul, which is attached to sense enjoyment. Right now, it is called Paragatma. And this soul is floating in different kinds of air. The scriptures describe, Bhagavata describe, there are 10 kinds of air, Vayu, Prana Vayu, within which this Atma is floating. Right? These 10 kinds of air, some types of air, Prabhupada explains, the Apana Vayu goes downward. The Vyana Vayu is shrinking and expanding. Then there is Samana Vayu, which is maintaining equilibrium. Udana Vayu goes upward. Like this, the different types of airs are there. 10 kinds of airs are there. Right? Prana Vayu is there. So, this air control, basically this is a mechanical process of system, yoga system, wherein the yogi is supposed to exercise his sense control, mind control, and bring all these prana vayus under proper control. And then the Paragatma, which otherwise the Atma is right now inclined towards sense enjoyment, will become free from these different kinds of airs. And it will be reaching to the stage what is known as Pratyagatma, wherein the engagement of your senses in matter will be completely nil. Basically, sense control, right? It's technically in this way it is explained. So for this, they have to undergo so many types of processes of mind, sense control, and some yogasanas and all these things. Some more detailed way, Krishna explains in 6th chapter of his Ashtanga yoga system. Right now, this much we can understand, that performance of any yoga system, especially a yoga system like this, the Patanjali yoga system, wherein Krishna is telling mind, sense control is required. Why? Because finally this will help you to realize yourself, come to the point of self-realization. And you are actually trying to control your mind so that the mind can be absorbed in subject matter of transcendence. Right? Basically, the Ashtanga yoga, you're supposed to focus your mind on the Paramatma within your heart. So, this is a very difficult process in present age. The easiest process Krishna recommends is Bhakti Yoga. Simply, if you chant Hare Krishna and hear that same mantra, immediately your attention, your mind is controlled. This is a very mechanical process. which is not suitable for everybody in the present age. Of course, it's an authentic process, but not practical for everybody in this age. Okay, but this mention is there in Bhagavad Gita for us to understand how there are so many different types of yoga systems. Okay. Next, in verse number 28, Krishna explains other different types of yajnas. There is Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, Tatha Pare. Swadhyaya Jnana Yajnascha, Yatayaha Samsita Vrataha. So we are discussing on different types of yajnas, sacrifices, right? Devata Yajna, Yajna of spiritualist trying to offer himself in the fire of Supreme Brahman, impersonalists. Krishna explained about different types of varnashramas, ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, how they sacrifice their tendency of sense enjoyment in their own pursuit of moving forward in their spiritual journey. And Patanjali Yoga system was discussed. And now Krishna is explaining about different types of other yajnas. Yajna means sacrifice. Like sacrificing your possessions, material possessions. Dravya Yajna. Prabhupada explains how earlier there used to be a lot of sacrifices or charities being given. The rich mercantile class, the Vaishya community, they used to have dharmashalas, atithi-shalas, anathalaya, vidyapithas, which means for education, for helping poor with accommodation, food. Even now, there are many people who would like to do this. This is called Dravya Yajna. In the modern days, Prabhupada says it is in the form of hospitals, old age homes, similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free. So all these come under the category of Dravya Maya Yajna. Means offering your material possessions for the welfare of society. Because generally, tendency of a person is to enjoy these material possessions for oneself. Right? Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktana. Krishna explained in the second chapter. Tendency is mostly to enjoy the material possessions for oneself and take enough enjoyment in that opulence. That is actually bewildering everybody. But if you have the tendency to contribute, that is at least better than having a selfish motive of enjoying oneself. Right? That is Krishna explains this later on in the 12th chapter also. How this tendency at least will bring you to the platform of understanding that I am not a person, there are only so many other people also with me. That selfish kripana tendency or miser tendency should go and should become liberal, brahmana tendency. Right? So, it's Dravya Yajna. Dravya Maya Yajna means offering your material possessions in charity to various social welfare activities. That is also one type of yajna, which gradually will bring you to the platform of understanding that you are spirit soul. Then there is one more type of yajna called Tapo Yajna. Tapo Yajna means wherein there is a practice of severe austerities. Prabhupada explains there are some specific recommendations, just like now there is Chaturmasya going on. Our Chaturmasya is very simple. We only avoid one item every month in the 4 months. Just like the first month Chaturmasya, we don't take green leafy vegetables like palak or some greens like that. Previous month we fasted from curds, yogurt, and this month we are fasting from milk. 3rd month. Next month, last month, we'll be fasting from urad dal. That's all. It is only simple recommendation. But actually, Chaturmasya, in other Vaishnava Sampradayas, they follow very strictly. 4 months, rainy season, no sadhus travel anywhere. They don't shave. Okay. And they eat, and they don't eat every 2 days, 2 times in a day. Once in a day only they eat less. Many restrictions, and sometimes some sadhus don't even eat from plate. They put something on the ground and they eat from their mouth. directly from the ground. And whatever comes, one eating, one morsel, that's it, the whole food for the whole day. So like this. And we have example of Narada Muni in Bhagavatam, wherein Narada Muni was the son of a maid servant, Dasi Putra. And that time, few great devotees, sadhus, during Chaturmasya, they happened to stay in his house. And his mother took care of them by feeding them and giving them nice services. And Narada Muni, who was a small boy at that time, he also served them, and he took their permission and took the remnants of food left by them. Uchishta, it is called. So because of that, because they were all great devotees, because of taking that Uchishta, he became himself a great devotee. Right? And after his mother passed away by snake bite, he left home and he went to the forest and did tapasya, and he realized, and next life he became Narada. This is the wonderful incident mentioned in Bhagavatam. So, tapasya of Chaturmasya or Chandrayana, like that, there are many tapasyas. It's called Tapo Yajna, Tapomaya Yajna, wherein tapasya means voluntarily taking some discomfort in life for spiritual progress. Right? That is called Tapomaya Yajna. So, Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, and Yoga Yajna. Right? Yoga Yajna means, Prabhupada says, strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism. Just now we discussed about the Patanjali yoga system. Right? Not easy. Now the mention of Ashtanga yoga is there in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We'll see how strict disciplines are there. You have to go to forest to practice brahmacharya. You should you should sit on a on a deer skin and focus your mind on the tip of the nose, like this. Many strict regulations are there. So it's a lot of strict disciplines one has to follow. So like this is called Yoga Yajna. Right? Then Krishna is telling about Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. So actually, what we are doing right now is called Jnana Yajna, because you are trying to discuss Bhagavad Gita in detail. Right? It is called Jnana Yajna. So basically, studying the scriptures, especially for us, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, is a Jnana Yajna. Otherwise, your understanding, your knowledge is trying to be diverted in so many subject matters other than spiritual topics. You're trying to focus or sacrifice that tendency for understanding about the truth of life, about Krishna. That is called Jnana Yajna. Yajna means sacrificing your tendency for enjoyment, for satisfaction of Krishna. Right? Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, then Jnana Yajna. Like this, Krishna says, there are different types of yajnas which are performed by different types of various spiritualists. Prabhupada concludes, of all these different types of yajnas, Krishna consciousness is the highest. Because Krishna consciousness, to get to this stage, it requires so much of endeavor from other type of disciplines. Krishna consciousness means you understand that Krishna is the topmost personality and we have to offer all our services to him. Krishna explains this in the 6th chapter towards the end. Yogina api sarvesham madgate nantar atmana. Right? The highest yogi, the topmost yogi is that person who is always keeping Krishna within his heart and offering devotional service to Krishna. Right? So this type of Krishna conscious understanding can come only by the mercy of a pure devotee. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. So these different types of mention of different yajnas is there in Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter, just for our understanding that how there are so many people doing so many things. All are authentic, Vedic, but the end result, basically, with regard to whatever they do, is to one level. That is not the final. That's the point which we have to understand here. Okay, next, Krishna in verse number 29, he is describing about one more yoga system called the Pranayama yoga system. Verse number 29. Apane juhvati prana Pranapanam tatha pare. Pranapana gati ruddhva. Pranayama parayanaha. Apare niyatahara. Pranan praneshu juhvati. Pranayama means you control your breathing process. Right? Pranayama is actually one of the parts of the Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8 steps. So Pranayama is one of the steps. Pranayama means breathing control, just like we discussed in Patanjali Yoga system. They have different types of airs within the body through mechanical process of yoga, asana, and breathing. So this is practiced. Right now, this is only one part of it is taken by some spiritual organizations, and they want to promote that, oh, this is the highest, this is the purpose. The purpose is to practice pranayama or perform some yoga asana, and you become cured of all diseases. You will live happily, healthily. For what? Further enjoying sense gratification more. That is not the purpose. Purpose is to attain devotional service to Krishna. That should be the purpose. Yoga means what? Linking or connecting with Krishna. Just like Prabhupada explains here. The pranayama, what happens is some air is going upward, some air is going downward. So reversing this, right? That is called puraka. And when the exhaled breathing is offered to inhaled breathing, that is called rechaka, is some technical things Prabhupada is telling here. And there are some yogis who, by practice of completely stopping all the currents of air within the body, is in equilibrium. It is called kumbhaka. Prabhupada gives personal example of how he was in Allahabad, Prayag for almost 15 years. In his grahastha life, he was doing a pharmaceutical business. Right? He had the opportunity to go to Kumbh Mela in Prayag. He used to say there were yogis who used to come once in 12 years there, who were all 700 years old, 1000 years old. All of us have a number of breaths you take is all countable or rather counted. So how many breaths you take, it is all limited. So your physical activity, stress, sense gratification will take away many breaths. So yogis, what they do, they control these breaths and don't use the breaths, because of which their life is prolonged. Say for instance, in your bank, you have 1 lakh rupee. If you don't use for next 10 years, it will be like that only. Right? If you start using it, within 1 year you consume 80,000. What is left? 20,000 only. It's like that. You have a countable number of breaths in your life. How much you want to use depends on how you use it for your proper utility. So these yogis who practice pranayama, they control their breath in a way that the number of breaths what they have is saved, and because of which their lifespan is prolonged. Why? Because they want to practice this yoga system. We'll see this in 8th chapter. Krishna explains how there's some yogis want to practice and perfect this yoga system, what they follow, and want to reach a specific planet. Unless they get that perfection, they want to live on. Whereas in case of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says, he doesn't endeavor to increase his life. Because very fact that from the day one he starts practicing Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says, already is on the transcendental plane. Right? He begins from the transcendental stage and he's constantly in that consciousness. Right? Every time, every step, he's just moving forward step by step, and he sustains that consciousness. Whereas the other, pranayama yogis, they are afraid that we'll fall down from the material influence. So they want to practice rigidly. That's why they want to have a long life. 700 years, 1000 years. Prabhupada says, many yogis who come there in Kumbh Mela, it's going to happen in 2025 in Prayag now. Many yogis are very old. They look like a young boy because they have been practicing yoga like that. So, but the purpose is finally, whatever it is, you have to attain Krishna Loka. Other planets and all is only intermediate. So, like this, these yogis, they control breath, and also if you eat less food, Krishna is recommending here. Apare niyata ahara. Niyata ahara means you curtail the eating process, reduce the eating, you can live long. Prabhupada says, people are all dying because of eating more, not because of eating less. The example of Goswamis in Vrindavan, they used to eat, Prabhupada says, example of one Goswami by Raghunath Das Goswami in Radhakund. He used to just drink a small, cup of buttermilk every alternate day once. It is good enough. And Bhagavatam, there's example of Shukadeva Goswami. He used to go early morning to any householder's place and stand there. And early morning they used to milk the cow. So one glass of milk you used to get every day as a dana. Not much you will drink over whole day. It is very minimum food consumption. That also is going to give you longevity of life. These are all things which Krishna is revealing secrets. So, and also eating less will help you in sense control. See, finally, any yoga system means yoga indriya samyama. It has to control, bring your senses under control. Why sense control? Because without sense control, you cannot practice yoga. Modern day so-called yoga systems, yoga processes. For 20 minutes, half an hour, you do some yoga. After that, you come out and start smoking or indulge in whatever way you want. That is all, mockery, farce. That is not the purpose of yoga. Yoga means sense control. 23 hours, 30 minutes, you do nonsense. Half an hour, you do some meditation. What is the use? Prabhupada never said that. Prabhupada always wanted us to follow a very pure life. A life of complete dedication and life of complete absorption in service to Krishna. That's why Prabhupada says, follow 4 regulatory principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. And chant 16 rounds every day. So this is something which is very, very much going to keep us always under, our mind control and sense control will be always under control. Otherwise, this mind senses are all going everywhere. That's what everybody is busy in. So unless there is sense control, there is no possibility of material enjoyment, material entanglement. Material entanglement means material world where going on cycle of birth and death. Entanglement is so much. So the only process is yajna, sacrifice. Sacrifice your tendency for sense enjoyment for spiritual advancement. So to summarize again, because next verse Krishna is going to explain the effects or benefits of doing sacrifice. So Krishna has been telling that to come to the platform of akarma, or wherein you will not have any reaction for actions you do here, you have to perform yajna. And performance of yajna is very simple in Kali Yuga. That is Krishna consciousness, chanting of Hare Krishna mantra every day, fixed number of times. The topmost yajna. Whereas there are different types of people under different modes of nature. They also follow different types of yajnas, recommendations, as recommended in scriptures. Worship of devatas, worship of impersonal Brahman, right? Then worship, or rather giving up your tendency for sense enjoyment in different ashramas. Patanjali yoga system, dravya yajna, tapo yajna, yoga yajna, jnana yajna. Like this, there are different types of yajnas people perform. Pranayama is also one type of yajna. Purpose of all yajnas, sacrifices, is to control your mind and senses for spiritual advancement. Okay, so because we are all entangled in the material world, in our material body, the bodily conception has to go away and spiritual understanding has to be awakened, and we have to go back to our spiritual existence. That is the understanding. Okay, so now verse number 30. Sarvepi ete yagna vido yagna kshapita kalmasha yagna shishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. Krishna here explains 3 benefits of performance of yajna. Right? Different types of yajna which Krishna has just now described. all these different performers of various types of yajna, the first benefit of doing any yajna is you are going to be free from sinful reaction. Prabhupada explains how in the material world we are all engaged in gratifying our senses, sense gratification. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence. So unless and until you engage in some type of a yajna or performance of sacrifice, your sense control cannot be regulated. Right? So you have to come out of this sense gratification tendency, means you have to perform yajna. So we'll just parallelly try to understand about how Prabhupada has given a very simple process of yajna called Sankirtana yajna, chanting Hare Krishna, right? Japa yajna. How just Prabhupada says one chanting itself can burn away so much of sins that you can't even perform. That is the power of chanting Hare Krishna, right? So such a powerful type of yajna. So this is the first benefit of doing any yajna. Chanting Hare Krishna will drive away all your sinful reactions. Then, second effect, Krishna says, is that you will experience happiness in this life. And also, all the opulences, what is otherwise possible for demigods or rich people, that also will be experienced. This is the effect. Because yajna will provide you all necessities of life. Krishna is pleased. Supreme Lord is pleased. Then he will provide necessities to you. Prabhupada gave the example how in Hyderabad, 1973 or 74, that time, there was a drought going on for almost 3 years. Prabhupada went there for a Pandal program and did a huge Sankirtana. In next 2-3 days, there was heavy rains. And Prabhupada said, it's because we did Sankirtana. Right? So when there is Sankirtana, there is regular rainfall. All the necessities of life will be fulfilled. So this is the point. Even for our subsistence, Krishna explains this in 3rd chapter already. We have read. Even for our subsistence, we have to perform yajna for basic necessities of life. The first effect of yajna performance is you'll be free from sinful reactions. Sinful reactions entangling us. This is actually binding us in the material world. Second effect is you will have a life of happiness and opulence. And third important effect or benefit of yajna is yanti brahma sanatanam. Krishna says after leaving this body, he will enter into spiritual world. Yes, see, wonderful benefit. So why don't we do yajna? That is what Krishna is telling us. Right? So 3 benefits of yajna Krishna is concluding after telling about different types of yajnas. Now Krishna is giving his verdict. Actually, in verse number 31, Nayam lokosti ayajnasya. Kuru Sattama is addressing Arjuna, O best of the Kurus, Kuru dynasty. If people don't perform yajna, ayajnasya. Ayajnasya means foolish people who don't do yajna. You cannot be happy in this life, in this planet, or next life. Right? This point, Krishna, in different ways, he has been telling. 3rd chapter also, he said, if you see, in 3rd chapter, verse number 16, I believe. Yes. Verse 16, he said, Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayatihaya adhayur indriya ramu mogam partasa jivati. A person who does not follow the prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin. Aghayu. Heard of Aghasura? Aghasura means he's sin personified, full of sins, right? Aghasura. So you're leading a life of sin if you don't perform yajna, because you're a thief. You don't even acknowledge. It's all given by Krishna. I have to again offer my acknowledgement to Krishna that you are giving me. Right? He's only living a life of sense gratification. Krishna says he's living a life of vain, means life of wasted life. So here Krishna is very clearly telling, in the material world, all of us are ignorant of a real situation, actual situation. So many action-reaction cycles have brought me to this level. At least I've got a human form of life now, wherein we have the opportunity of understanding the purpose of life and coming out of this entanglement. Right? Our ignorance in our previous life, is we have done a lot of sinful activities, and sinful life is what is the cause of going on our material existence, going on in material existence. So Prabhupada says, human life is the only loophole. In one more context, Prabhupada says, like a jump board. It's like you're seeing the swimming pool, no? The jump board. You jump and you can go to any height. Right? Like that, it's a loophole by which we can get out of this entanglement of the cycle of birth and death. Right? So, the Vedic scriptures say the easiest way to come out of this entanglement is to perform the various recommendations of the Vedic literatures known as Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Right? So, the easiest performance of Dharma in Kali Yuga is performance of Sankirtana Yajna. Prabhupada says, performance of Yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, even if there is increase of population. Let's see. So finally, as we discussed in the previous verse, 30th verse, what will happen? We will go back to spiritual world. So this is what is recommended. Whereas the modern day society doesn't know this. They're all busy in what? They're all busy in karma, activities for sense enjoyment. And karma is creating karma bandhana. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma. Bhagavatam says. Rishabhdev says, all are engaged in vikarma. What is vikarma? Prohibited activities or sinful activities. For what? Indriya pritaye, for sense gratification. They've all become mad for sense gratification. So Krishna is telling, performance of that life, you'll not be happy in this life or next life, and you'll be completely in darkest ignorance. So the only solution is to perform yajna, and Kali Yuga, especially in this age, Prabhupada's mercy, we have got a very simplest type of yajna to perform. Every day, without fail, chant your rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. Prabhupada's recommendation is to come to the level of 16 rounds minimum. Right? I was just hearing one very old devotee was just expressing his memory, how during initiation he came before Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked, before initiation he asked, how many rounds you will chant? So this devotee very confidently said, 16. So Prabhupada said, corrected him, 16 minimum. So we should not be very proud, oh, I'm chanting this many rounds. No, 16 is minimum. Krishna's recommendation is 24 hours you have to chant, Satatam Kirtayantam. At least 16 you chant. That is what Prabhupada is. Minimum 16 rounds. So this is the type of yajna which will give you the highest kind of happiness. What is that? To go back to spiritual world. Prabhupada says, a life of Krishna consciousness, like this, everyday chanting, everyday offering food and having prasadam, reading Bhagavad Gita, is called life of Krishna consciousness, is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. Only solution. There is no other solution. Otherwise, problems will go on. So many other problems will keep coming and troubling you. But you go on with your chanting and doing other devotional activities. Everything else will be looking at them as insignificant. Now, other problems have become important for us. It's all troubling us so much. Right? All other problems are of no significance. The real problem is cycle of birth and death, old age. That has to be solved. For that, the solution for that is, what did Krishna say in this chapter only? Janma karma chame divyam, verse number 9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. When you know Krishna perfectly, how do you know Krishna perfectly? When you hear about Krishna. Even chanting Hare Krishna and hearing Hare Krishna is knowing Krishna. Then tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. Again, you will not take birth in this material world. So Krishna is very categorically again repeating that without yajna, you are lost. You will not be happy in this world or in the next life. You are completely doomed. Verse number 32, Krishna says, Evam bahuvidha yajna vitata brahmano mukhe karmajam vidhitan sarva evam jnatva vimokshase. So all these different types of yajnas, sacrifices which are mentioned by me, Krishna says, they are all approved by the Vedas. They are all authentic Vedic sacrifices as recommended in the Vedas. So they are not that it is unauthorized. Anything other than this is unauthorized. Whatever Krishna explained, Devata Yajna, the impersonal, Nirakara, Brahman Yajna, Dravya Yajna, Tapo Yajna, Jnana Yajna, all these are all approved by Vedas. And why there are so many varieties? Because there are different types of people in different modes of nature. Because people are all in different conception of life, mostly in the bodily conception of life. Right? So some are in the bodily conception, some are in the mental conception, intellectual conception. So based on the different levels, different types of recommendations are there. So that gradually they can elevate to the highest perfection. So step by step for different people, these recommendations are given. But ultimately, in Krishna consciousness, what happens is you will transcend all the different conceptions of life, from bodily, mental, intellectual, and you'll reach the spiritual conception of life. Just see. Prabhupada says, chanting Hare Krishna will immediately put you on the spiritual platform. Just see the wonderful effect of chanting Hare Krishna. Right? It'll transcend. It's called transcend. Transcend means it will not even take you to the next level. No, it is immediately from whatever level you are, it will bring you to the highest level. Like a lift from first floor to 100th floor. So chanting Hare Krishna and following whatever Prabhupada has given us will bring us to the Brahman platform or spiritual platform, highest platform. Okay. So these different recommendations are all authentic recommendations which Krishna is telling is there basically to bring them to the platform of liberation. Right. Next, verse number 33. Krishna says, Shreyan dravyamayo yajna jnana yajna parantapa sarvam karmakhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. Now Krishna is giving his conclusion with regard to yajnas. Now he is telling that dravya yajna, offering of material possessions, better than that is jnana yajna. Like how we're discussing Bhagavad Gita now, trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. That's called jnana yajna. Right? Because the offering of material possession is better than the jnana yajna. Dravya yajna is better. The jnana yajna is better than dravya yajna. Why? Because ultimately the purpose of all the yajnas, any activities you do, should bring you to the platform of proper understanding. What is the proper understanding? I am spirit soul. I am not this body. Krishna is super soul. We have to offer our service to him. This is what Krishna explains in the 7th chapter. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. After many millions of births, one fortunate person will come to understand that Krishna is Vasudeva Sarvamiti. He is the cause of all causes. Performance of any yajna, Devata yajna, Nirakara Brahman yajna, Tapo, that should bring you to the level of understanding that Krishna is the supreme. Right? Otherwise, simply doing yajnas for some material benefits is of no use. That's the point. Right? So, the purpose of any yajna should bring you to this platform of complete knowledge. It's like sometimes people think, oh, we have some problem, so we'll do some havan. The problem will be over. That is not the purpose. That is one very inferior type of understanding it is. So it should bring you to the platform of complete understanding that Krishna is the supreme. And when you understand that, Krishna says, you'll be liberated. When tattvataha, when you know Krishna in truth, what is the effect of it, benefit of it? You will come out of the cycle of birth and death. That is the whole point. So, and finally, reinstate yourself as part and parcel of Krishna, as servant of Krishna. So, people because people have different types of mentalities, different types of understandings, different type of faiths. So they perform any sacrifice to that extent, right? So whereas when your faith is reaching the level of transcendental knowledge, as Krishna is explaining here, that is the highest, right? Sometimes people perform so many things, so many rituals, so many sacrifices, so many yajnas, just for some material benefit. That is not the purpose. Just like there is a story in Bhagavatam about one son of Shakuni. His name is Vrikasura. He also performed yajna, sacrifice. He was performing severe yajna for Lord Shiva. Very austerity in Kedarnath. You heard of Kedarnath, no? Badrinath, Kedarnath. So there he was performing austerity to get some boon from Shiva. So in the severe cold, he was performing austerities, and Shiva is still not appeared. Right? So what did he do? He started offering the flesh from his body in the fire of sacrifice. Right? So he started cutting his body, all different flesh from his thighs, hands, and everywhere, body, and then trying to offer. So Krishna, Shiva is known as Ashutosha. Ashutosha means very easily he can be pleased and become satisfied by worshippers. So Shiva became very compassionate. Oh, my devotee is doing this. Let me go and give him darshan and ask him what he wants. So he went there, and then he told him, "What are you doing? Don't perform such severe types of sacrifice like this. I am pleased with you." Then Shiva, by his touch, he again, this Asura, Vrikasura, got his body again in normal condition. Then Shiva asked him, "What do you want?" So he asked him, "Shiva, Lord Shiva, I want a benediction that whomever I touch my hand on his head, his head should crack." Okay. Shiva once thought, okay, this is a very dangerous benediction he's asking. Nevertheless, he has asked him already. Okay, tathastu. So this Asura wanted to experiment this on Shiva only. Lord Shiva only. Why? Because he was attracted to Gauri. Oh, if I kill Shiva, then I can marry Gauri. This is Asura mentality. They worship Devatas to trouble Devatas only. So when this Asura started, putting his hand on Shiva's head, Shiva started running here and there. Hey, what is the big trouble I have come into? I gave benediction for him and he's troubling me only. He started everywhere, running here and there. And finally, he reached Vaikuntha asking help of Narayana. So Narayana appeared as a very young boy. He came in front of this Asura, Vrikasura, and started speaking very sweetly. He started telling, "I know your father, Shakuni. We're all very great friends." Shakuni started speaking. This Shiva, recently, his wife Sati, she actually burned herself. She committed suicide. So his mind is not in proper condition. He's gone mad. So whether he has given his benediction properly, I don't know whether it is going to work or not. Why don't you test on yourself? Right? So he told you, why don't you once see whether what happens to you? So this Asura, he came in the sweet words and enchanting smile of this boy, who was actually Vishnu himself. And he kept his hand and his head cracked. So this story is mentioned. This basically, I was narrating this story to explain how people perform different sacrifices with a material motive, no spiritual intention of pleasing Krishna. Sacrifice should be performed for pleasing Krishna. That is what is the purpose of sacrifice, right? So when you do that, then Krishna will bestow spiritual understanding. The chit energy or the knowledge energy will flow. If you have material intention, that knowledge energy will not come inside. It's a block, right? So the recommendation here is any sacrifice you do, basically, as recommended in scriptures, the intention should be to cultivate or come to the level of transcendental understanding. Right? Sometimes we see many people doing so many rituals, so many puja, sacrifices, but finally they'll be having the same materialistic tendency or mentality of enjoyment in the material world. That is not the purpose of life. Finally, there should be some purification in the heart, right? Sinful reaction should go, and if sinful reaction goes means you are clear in your heart, in your mind. What is what? Clarity has come in your understanding. That's the point. That's what Krishna is telling. Finally, any activity you do, jnane parisamapyate, it should culminate in transcendental knowledge. That is the purpose. Just like we are discussing now, Jnana Yajna. What is the purpose? To understand Krishna as supreme. We are his subordinate. This understanding has to be very clear for us. That is the point. And how to get this understanding in a more simplistic way, in a very faster way, is what Krishna is going to explain in the next few verses. Okay, knowledge is the ultimate. But how to get that knowledge? Performance yajna, very difficult. Not easy. How to get it easily? Krishna explains next. Okay, so whole chapter is about how to come to the transcendental understanding level. So I'll conclude here. Before we stop, anybody has anything to ask, discuss, comment based on today's discussion? You can take.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Then
yes.
Prabhuji, in Chaturasram, not Chaturasram, the Chaturmasa, that first month we will not take the leave. Can you just explain, Prabhuji, what
First month we don't take green leaves. It is palak, like that.
Okay.
You can take coriander, no problem. Coriander is only a spice. Okay, coriander, curry patta, no problem. Second month we don't take curds.
Curds.
Dahi nahi lete. Third month, abhi chal raha hai. Doodh nahi hai. No milk.
No milk.
No milk.
Dahi is allowed.
Dahi you can take. What is not allowed only you should not take. Otherwise, everything else you can take. Okay. Green leafy vegetables, no curds. Second month, third month, no milk. Last month, that is Kartik month, we don't take urad dal. It means dosa made out of urad dal, idli made of urad dal, you should not take. Idli dosa can be made without urad dal also. Right? That you can take.
Prabhuji, like we offer milk to Gopalji on a regular basis.
Okay.
So what to do on that?
Milk we also offer to Krishna.
Okay, but
we give it to somebody. We give it to somebody who will take.
Okay. So we
on Ekadashi also. See, on Ekadashi also, we offer grains to Krishna, but we don't consume. We give it to somebody who takes.
Okay.
That's how it is.
You can offer it to Lord and distribute it.
Distribute prasada. Distribute. Grihastha should distribute prasada too much every day.
Okay, very
Every
good.
day should distribute prasada. Okay, that is very good, important activity. Grihastha's duty it is. See, in Vedic times, any Grihastha used to take any, food, especially lunch time, used to go outside in the street and call 5 times. Anybody is hungry, come in. Then he used to come inside and have food. That is the system. So Grihastha means, see, out of the 4 ashramas, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Brahmachari means student. Vanaprastha means retired, no money. Then Sannyasa means 0 money. Okay. So all the 3 not working. Brahmachari, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa not working. Only earning person is Grihastha. He is supposed to maintain all the other three sections of society.
Yes.
That's why we come to you for donation.
Prabhuji, any difference between no money and 0 money? No money and 0 money?
Same thing. At least Vanaprastha means you'll have some saving. You'll be using it. Sannyasa, you have to give up everything. No money. 0 money. Sorry.
Okay.
Vanaprastha will have some money. You say no money. Right. Sannyasa will have 0 money. Prabhupada went with 0 money to America, right? That's how it is. Okay. Any other question? Or discussion point?
Prabhuji, last question I have. That Patanjali Rishi came before Lord Krishna or after Lord Krishna?
Exact history I'll find out, because generally, Prabhupada explained.
Because he is bona fide.
He's bona fide. See, Rishi would have come before also. Let me find out and tell you before or after, because there is a mention of one more yoga system, rather not yoga system, philosophy. Krishna mentioned one philosophy to Arjuna while he was describing about how soul is eternal, right? So in verse number 26 of second chapter, Krishna explains that there are some philosophers who think that the soul doesn't exist. You are perpetually born and you are perpetually dead, right? So Prabhupada explains in the purport, there are some philosophers known as Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. They are like Buddhists. So I'm mentioning this why? Because Buddha came after Krishna came. The philosophy of this, Shunyavada was there always in some form or the other with different philosophers, just like Lokayatikas, Vaibhashikas. They are all philosophers who are like Buddhists only. So Patanjali and other sages like Gautama Rishi, Kannada Rishi, they all proposed their own theories and philosophies. They're all like contemporaries of Vedavyasa, in one sense. So exact date, time, I'll find out and let you know. But definitely these yoga systems coming from Krishna only finally, initially. So they have all taken different shapes and forms and different names as the time progressed. That's the point. Because he practiced it and made it very popular. It is known as Patanjali Yoga system. So people can relate easily that way. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question? Thank you.